Jeff Bezos retires with $739,489 times the median American's wealth. So if you ever wanted to feel poor, listen to this. So when Jeff Bezos steps down Monday as Amazon CEO at age 57, he will carry with him an estimated $197 billion, a staggering fortune that is 739,489 times the median net worth of an American at age 65. That median net worth is $266,400, Business Insider reported, citing data from the Federal Reserve. So Amazon announced in February that Bezos would step down this year and assume the mantle of executive chairman of the e-commerce giant's board. He's expected to dedicate more time toward initiatives like the Bezos Earth Fund, his Blue Origin spaceship company, the Washington Post, and the Amazon Day One Fund, CNBC reported. Now, Bezos received an $81,840 salary and $1.6 million compensation from the company last year, according to Business Insider. Now, his net worth exploded by $75 billion during 2020 as the COVID-19 pandemic drove sales into the stratosphere on his company's online marketplace, sending shares skyward. And Bezos, who makes more money every second than the average American worker makes in a week, has drawn criticism for getting richer while thousands of Amazon workers live on food stamps and toil in poor conditions. And he will be replaced by Andy Jassy, current CEO of Amazon Web Services, the company's cloud platform. Either way, feel free to give your thoughts on this, because the thing is, people need to understand that the majority of how these billionaires end up making their money is not by the incomes from their company, right? So just take this for example, right? Bezos received $81,840 from the salary and $1.6 million from other compensation, which, probably like stock options, that kind of stuff, right? So what you got to understand is the majority of his money is completely made, or his wealth is completely made from the ownership that he has in companies, right? This is why you get someone like Peter Thiel making billions of dollars in his Roth IRA. This is how you get Jeff Bezos, who's making less than $2 million per year on paper, well, based off pure income, but ends up making his wealth worth more than grew 70 something billion dollars in a single year, right? Yeah. Exploded $75 billion in a single year, right? Just in right here. So it kind of goes to show you that if you want to become massively wealthy, you got to stop worrying too much about necessarily your income. You have to worry more so about how to exponentially grow your net worth. Right? So what I mean by this is that, look, you could make $50,000 a year, and as long as you keep your expenses less than half that, right, and put the rest of the money that you have after that, after all your expenses and all this stuff, into investments, your net worth is going to eventually outpace your income, right? Your net worth, if you put it into investments, right, and things that end up having compound interest, you will have a high potential of where your investments will outpace your actual income, right? That's what you actually really want long-term in your life, is that you want your income to get to the point the income that is created from your investments to get to the point where it can either match or go past your income that you work for, right? For example, if your annual income is $50,000 after taxes per year, right? You want your investments to get to the point where they're able to provide that for you, so that you could basically have the option to whether or not you truly want to work. And that's the whole point of investing. That's the whole point of, trying to increase your net worth. Yeah, you want to be super rich. Yeah, you want to be super wealthy, all that kind of stuff, right? But the main thing is, how much money can you keep and how much money that you keep can you put in things that will eventually help you retire, right? And again, financially retire. You don't want to necessarily just retire because you can. You want to have the options available to you so that, like, hey, if I want to quit my job, I'm financially capable of, quitting my job. If I want to go try a different career, I'm financially capable of trying a different career. That's the whole thing that you need to really think about, is that investing and making money and all that kind of stuff is really supposed to be geared to something that you have an interest in, but then also get you to the point where you are free enough to where you're not necessarily tied down to necessarily anything, right? Because, for example, Jeff Bezos is in a situation that he could literally not work ever for the rest of his life, and he could simply just sell stock that he owns every year in the realm of billions of dollars every single year, pay very little taxes on that, and literally do whatever he wants. He could literally buy probably some Fortune 500 companies just from the stock that he could end up selling, right? Think about that. He alone could sell stock that he owns of Amazon to go buy other massive companies. That's crazy when you really think about it. So I think it'd be kind of cool for a lot of people to get to that point to where you have the availability to do things like that. Now, you don't have to necessarily just sell stock and end up living like a life of luxury or anything. You could sell stock and end up, potentially, funding a whole bunch of charities, maybe building a whole bunch of wells if you're into that whole thing, maybe build up some schools. There's a lot of options available to you in that specific part in your life. But either way, I just find it very interesting because the thing to really understand is that this isn't that big of a deal, right? Like Jeff Bezos retiring with this crazy amount of wealth compared to other people really isn't that big of a deal. This doesn't really change anything. He's still someone that has massive power in like the infrastructure of the United States and of the world as well. Like, don't forget that he owns a very massive media company. He owns a space company. He owns or will own eventually other things that will have very intrusive aspects into people's culture and life, right? Not to mention, he still owns Amazon stock, right? So just because he steps down as CEO doesn't necessarily mean that anything really changes, right? Like, I still see Amazon growing exponentially. I kind of feel like Amazon is going to eventually just take over the world in a sense when it comes to like delivery and all that kind of stuff, right? It's going to get to like a crazy point. And I do not think Amazon's ever going to basically pass away because they're basically covering their butts on every single aspect of almost every market to be able to offer things that people just can't offer, that other companies just can't offer. Like, for example, it's going to get to the point where regardless of where you live, would it make sense for you to even spend the gas money to go buy something from a store when you could get things for far cheaper while spending less money on Amazon? Like, that's where it's going to get to, right? Like, if it gets to the point where you could end up getting like your groceries delivered to your place, regardless of where you live in the world. You can like live in like a very rural area and get things delivered in a like less than 20-minute time frame or 30-minute time frame, and it's cheap. That's going to destroy a lot of businesses. So just because he steps down doesn't mean Amazon's still going to like not destroy basically small business, because Amazon's definitely going to be destroying small business.